Hey everybody, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com, back to do another initial analysis of the Steelers' regular season finale 16-13 win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously to talk about that and just to put a bow on the season, because as of this recording, the Colts just went up 24-10, so a tie looks pretty unlikely at this point. Always was, obviously. Extremely slim odds of happening. Cleveland loses to Baltimore. And so essentially, as we're recording, and I'm sure as you're listening to this, most likely in the morning on Monday morning, the Steelers have officially 100% been eliminated from the playoffs, and clearly that's frustrating and just crushing. Considering this was a 7-2-1 team, winning six in a row, you felt like they had enough margin for error that even if things got tougher with a difficult back half of the schedule facing the Chargers and the Patriots and the Saints, that you could still turn things around and or at least get into the playoffs even if it wasn't the most perfect way to do so. So we're not going to focus too much on the Bengals game. It was sloppy. The energy felt low. I don't know if there was some scoreboard watching, if it was Christmas hangover, or just the realization of what everything has happened to put the Steelers in the spot where they were now actively rooting for Cleveland to win it. I'm sure that maybe brings the temperature in the room down a little bit, but you get the win, and it's AFC North football. And yes, the Bengals are, in a word, or two words, pretty bad. But these games are always going to be close, competitive. The Bengals wanted to do everything to play spoiler and beat the Steelers to definitely knock them out of the playoff race. And I think only two of these games since 2015 have been decided by more than 10 points. So there's going to be close, competitive. The Bengals always have a good game plan defensively against the Steelers, or at least normally they do. And without Antonio Brown, that allowed William Jackson to play on Juju a lot. The Bengals could roll their coverage to Juju, really take him out of the equation for big chunks of the game, and force guys like James Washington and Eli Rogers and company to step up and make plays. And that's not going to be obviously as consistent as Antonio Brown or what Juju's able to do. So that was the reason for some of the offensive struggles. Obviously the pick six to Sean Williams. Ben thought that there was going to be a penalty for an offsides, and it didn't come. That's why he threw it over the middle. And Williams and Bates are a really strong safety tandem, two of the best players on the entire team. Definitely on the defensive side of the football, them and Geno Atkins. They now have 8 interceptions this year combined between the two. So you get the big play there. Defensively, they played well, though. They held Cincinnati to, what was it, 6 points? Yeah, just the 2 field goals. So, you really can't complain about the job there. Yes, there's certain, particulars about the defense, things you would like to see better, a little better tackling. The run defense wasn't great. I think Joe Mixon averaged over 8 yards per carry, highlighted by that long 51-yard run to let Cincinnati tie the game up at 13 late in that thing. So, but consistently, they had some decent running lanes and things you want to clean up there. But considering the bottom line is that you allow 6 points as a defense, you really can't complain too much about it. There's stuff like 2 fumbles that you don't recover, and kind of highlights the story of the year. This defense just not creating enough splash plays. But overall, Cam gets 2 sacks, Walk gets a sack, 2 forced fumbles. Tuitt, I think Chiclo each split a sack. So, you got that pressure from a lot of sources. You're up over 50 sacks for the year, so you get some impact there. But offensively it was tough, and like I said, you just see the value or the value in Antonio Brown. I'm combining the words because it's just depressing right now. The situation the Steelers are in, just a weird feeling of the season coming to an end so early in December. Usually we're talking about that in mid-January, mid to late January. So you saw the value of Antonio Brown, and when he's not out there, how differently teams can play this offense and take away Juju. And the Bengals have a talented secondary. I know their numbers don't look good, but that is, I think, a really solid secondary group with Bates and Williams, William Jackson, Denard, Kirkpatrick. That's a good group across the board. The linebackers are just bad and injured, and that's really been a problem spot for them. But enough about Cincinnati, enough about the game. I don't want to go too much into the team as a whole right now, because it's just coming off the game, and there's so many thoughts in my head right now. You want to try to separate and get a good concrete answer and evaluation. Clearly a massively disappointing season. We know how much talent this team has had. We know the potential that they can reach. It's frustrating they never get to that potential. It's always well, if this happens, if they could do this, or they're so close, they never quite get there. So that's the frustrating part, and every reason to be frustrated about it. And as I said, coming off the Saints loss, I know there was so much anger about the refs, and that's fine. But the Steelers put themselves in that position in the first place to make that a must-win game, and to make this game Sunday where you needed help, where you're rooting for Cleveland. That's on Pittsburgh for tying Cleveland in week 1, getting in a big hole against Kansas City week 2, losses to Denver, a team that you can beat, team you had a chance to beat, letting the Chargers come back to win that one, losing to Oakland. Obviously, is going to be the one that really sticks with you, I think. But, the Steelers put themselves in this hole. So you know that they're going to have some cap space to work with in the offseason, more than usual. I don't know what the exact number is. I'll let Dave Bryan do the numbers, crunch the numbers, because he knows it a lot better than I do, and just don't trust me with math. He really shouldn't. So I'll let Dave have the numbers, but there's going to be cap space. You can create additional cap space by doing things like you've picked up Bud Dupree's option, but you can release Bud Dupree, not paying Bud Dupree that 5th-year option. That's going to create $8 to $9 million right there. You can cut Marcus Gilbert. That's, I think, debatable, but it's possible. You can cut Morgan Burnett, which I think should happen. So you can still create up to almost $20 million that way as well with some of the other moves. Maybe you don't pick up Boswell's roster bonus and other stuff that happens. You can get a big chunk of cap space open up just off of that alone, in addition to the money you save with the whole Le'Veon Bell stuff. So this team has to, and I don't know a name yet, and we have, unfortunately, lots of time to talk about this stuff, but they need to make a pretty sizable move in free agency, given the cap space they have and given the nature of where this team is at, that the window is closing. That's undeniable. Even Ben essentially admitted it today in his post-game press conference. They have to make some big move on the defensive side of the football. What position? It's really it's more about talent and getting your money's worth, because the last thing you want to do is certainly overspend and not get the right guy because you're so focused in on a position. But you need to get a defender, whether that's an outside linebacker, an inside linebacker, a cornerback, maybe some sort of dime player. That you got to make a move there. You got to have more than just the $5 million a year type contract. We're talking $8 to $10, $million per year on a 3 to 5 year kind of deal to bring somebody in that can really make a difference right away instead of relying on just the draft. Because clearly there's been issues with evaluation with this front office, especially in the secondary, in terms of finding the right talent and the right pieces that fit. And B, you don't have enough draft capital to fill all the holes you have to fill. Inside linebacker, outside linebacker, backup defensive lineman, dime player, corner, 1 to 2, maybe some extra safety depth you want to add. You're not going to do all that in one draft class. It just, by a numbers game, and then the likelihood that you are able to hit on everything all at once when you need to kind of hit on everything all at once and change this defense in a hurry. So for multiple reasons, you do have to make a more aggressive approach to free agency and bringing somebody in. So that's got to be the mindset there. Again, names in particular, I'm not really sure. Titans are about to look like they're going to run a fake punt, or maybe not. But again, it's still 24-10, so I don't like the odds of the tie there. But to bring it back to Pittsburgh, you got to be aggressive. You have to change the mindset this offseason because of how much this means. Ben's going to be 37. AB's going to be 31. You only have this offensive line together for so long, and Joe Hayden's going to be in his last year in 2019. So there's going to be a lot of changes coming up, and that window is closing. So that's the approach that the Steelers must take of being aggressive, changing this defense, and then you hopefully get back on track for 2019. So obviously disappointing end of the year. We'll start to transition into the offseason. Again, we have a lot of time to do so I know we want to talk about free agency and all those things, but there's plenty of time to talk about it. With coaching changes and all that, again, I have an article that's going up around this time about Keith Butler, so you can check that out if you haven't already on the site on Steelers Depot. I'll kind of wait for an extra day or two to talk about some coaching changes. I want to just think things through. Maybe we'll hear Mike Tomlin's final press conference on, I imagine, Tuesday to get an idea from there. But I have some stuff in mind, obviously, of what I would like to see happen, what I think will happen. We'll have to wait and see with some of that stuff. But moves could be made relatively quickly as well because, coaching season starting up. Head coaches are going to get hired. They're going to start hiring their staff, and you want to get a jump on these guys as soon as possible. So, you want to take, a couple days for the team to evaluate and figure out their plan, but you want to act pretty quick as well because you don't want to be the last team trying to hire maybe some different players on this staff or some different coaches on this staff. So let me know your thoughts below. I'm sure I know what your thoughts are about your feelings on this season and the disappointment, the frustration, and the anger. All perfectly acceptable thoughts, feelings, and comments. But let me know your thoughts on really moving forward, because we look at the past a lot. We've talked about the past this whole time. But moving forward, What does this team have to do to get back on track? Is it coaching changes? Is it personnel changes? Specifically, what changes would you make? I'm sure you have a lot in your mind, a lot of comments, and let me know those things. So hopefully in the off season, well, I plan to in the off season to have something kind of cool, something interactive with you guys. So if you follow me on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel, we'll work it through Steelers Depot as well, but also it'll be primarily done on my YouTube channel. And then we'll post it on Depot and talk about it there. I'll wait to kind of get into the details because I want to do some extra research on my end. But basically, we'll be running the Steelers. Hopefully, is my plan, and talking about what changes to be made and kind of playing it out. So get your GM caps on because I think it's something we're going to try to do this off season. So that might be fun, interactive, and just to see how good or bad we are trying to run the Steelers. But again, I'll get into those things in the next couple of weeks. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether you're watching on YouTube, Steelers Depot, or following me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Thank you guys so much for listening today and all season, and we'll talk to you soon.